Hi, welcome to Dynamic Team Leadership Theory and Development. I want to talk through a little bit. A couple of reminders. Number one, because we don't physically meet on Mondays and Wednesdays in person, the amount of time you would normally be in class is time that you are either using to do the research that I've assigned or watching this video and doing follow-up projects and things like that. So the trade-off for the 3 credit class is that sometimes we're not physically together, but doesn't mean that you're not giving that hour plus of time to the coursework. So with that being said, let's take a quick look before we get into the topic. I just want to look at, and I'm going to share my screen here. I would like to look at the Canvas. So let's take a look here at Canvas. And this class here, I'll just pull up my version of it. I want to look at the 2 assignments that came up this week, just so you know, elements of an effective medical facility, clinic, or practice. First, let me remind you that when you turn in these assignments, to be able to get the full credit, you really need to do the full work. And there is no just winging it or sending back fluff or just thoughts off the top of your head. That won't get you the result that you're hoping for grades wise. You need to do exactly what the assignment says. So using JSTOR, Gale, or other non-Google sources, I would accept Google Scholar if you're familiar with using that, but if you're not, you know, these 2 sources are great. But you need to lay out your report in exactly this way. Now you could still do an audio report or something for delivery, and that, you know, that's great, but you still need to turn in a written report on this one that matches this here. You need to cover these 3 things paragraph wise, and then also where'd you get your resources from. Let's take a quick look. So elements of an effective medical facility, clinic, or practice, you know, basically looking at it from a team perspective. Let's go ahead and go to Gale and just see if we can find anything on this, because I know sometimes you get a little bogged down, like, oh, where do I even look? Well, you can see in Gale, you could go a couple different ways. You could try and look from the business perspective, or you could look just under magazines and journals, as you can see here. I'm going to look under health, and under health and medicine, you see nursing and allied health, articles on direct patient care, healthcare administration, and more. So let's click on that. Over here, I'm going to type in teams. Let's see what we can find. There's 80,000 articles, okay? Let's just scroll down a little bit here. Here, under the Medical Laboratory Observer publication, Making High Performance Teams Work for You. This is an article that's available. You can download it, print it, and this is actually a pretty easily laid out article here. It has some step-by-step. These are the kind of articles that are easy to read and easy to apply to your research. Others are much more complicated, technical, and you can wade into those as well. But this is a very good article. It actually fits exactly with what we were looking for. You could scroll down and find some more, though. Why teams matter in healthcare, 7 characteristics that define successful teams. Here's another one that you could actually take this and use it as the basis for what you're going to write up for this research. So just want to show you, and this isn't even a long article, you can find plenty of resources through Gale. JSTOR would be the same way. JSTOR, as I looked at that myself, I had, let's see if I can pull up my password here. Sorry, I'll give it a second here. Okay, so I write in, this one I'll do team composition, because I know that that's the other topic of the assignments for research this week. Team composition, a couple articles pop right up. Now these articles are a little heavier. These are journal articles from academic journals, so they're written at a kind of a deep level. And I don't expect you to totally understand everything in the article or outline it. This is a relatively short assignment. Whatever you do find does have to inform what you write. So you can't just find something and say, oh, I found something, but then just write whatever is on the top of your head. I'll be able to tell if you got anything from the article, okay? But again, some of these articles are really long and deep. One of these two articles here, I printed them up and started wading through them. But the second article there, he literally, the authors, three of them, turned most of the discussion into a giant algebraic equation. So it's kind of complicated. But you can find some good things in there. Like I found one really good phrase that I'm going to start using: heterogeneous teams. So instead of a homogeneous team that's all blended together and everything looks the same and acts the same, a heterogeneous team is a team that doesn't all look the same, which is part of our discussion today. So all that to say, JSTOR and Gale have plenty of resources that you can use. And so I want to encourage you. It might take a little digging. You might have to get used to using some of these advanced search features and things like that. But it is the way you got to get it done. And what I'm trying to do for you too is, of course, you could Google anything. Your phone, you could just sit down and Google things. But Googling will not get you through academically where you need to be. If you're going to go on for any additional training when you're done with your undergrad, any kind of grad school, seminary, you're going to be required to use academic resources, not just Googling. So Googling is sufficient sometimes if we're just getting a quick snapshot. Current events and things like that, if you're getting them from current newspapers and things, that's fine. But on these types of topics, taking a little bit deeper dive, I'm trying to stretch you a little bit to get you to use some of these other resources. So let's see here. Let's take a look. I'm going to share my screen again. I want to look at these assignments real quick. All right. I'll turn off the library resources, turn off JSTOR. We'll just get out of that. Okay. So you had 2 assignments this week, right? So you had one due on today, Wednesday, when I'm recording this, which is the elements of an effective medical facility and clinic. But then you also have Friday, composition, putting the right people on the team. Both of these will be discussed in class on Friday. As you can see here, I try to lay out really clearly what the expectations are. And if you don't meet the expectations, I have to mark down your grade. So read the chapter, which is super short. When you look at this chapter, I mean, it takes like 7.5 minutes to read this chapter. So it's very short, very simply laid out. Write a quick 1 sentence in your own words, an explanation of your characteristic, okay? See the characteristic or concept listed next to your name. So for example, Joe has good conflict management skills. So good conflict management skills. In his own words, write up, what do you think it means, okay? It kind of introduces the concept. Then summarize a characteristic of your assigned portion of the chapter. So some of these don't have a paragraph next to them, but as you read the chapter, you'll be able to glean a couple of things that the chapter's talking about that relates to your topic, okay? Then find 2 correlating articles that relate to the concept you identified from your portion of the chapter. Summarize them, 2 to 3 paragraphs each. Okay, so this is where it gets a little more complicated. Go to JSTOR or Gale, find 2 articles, and then summarize the articles. Doesn't have to be in-depth point by point, but I do need to be able to tell that you read something that helped expand your thinking beyond just what the chapter is talking about. The chapter is really so basic. And so you need to go to these resources and find some good stuff. And then it says right here, the assignment should be 5 to 7 paragraphs with 1 sentence that explains your concept at the beginning, right? And then be ready to present it in class on Friday. This is kind of the way it's going to go for the next few weeks. And so I just want you to be ready for that. Now, all that being said, I want to stop sharing here. And I want to talk a little bit about part of this team composition concept. If you've ever played sports, you are very familiar with at least the idea of having the right team composition. But it's not just sports. If you've been on any kind of work team, if you've worked in the cafeteria, you know, you realize that you have to have the right composition of team. And this is roles and responsibilities, but it's also personality, skills, diversity, I mean, there's just a lot there. Education, information. Chapter talks about that, and we're all going to talk about this as well. The ability to communicate, willingness to help and support. You know, there's a lot that goes into this. So I don't want to steal the thunder of that discussion. So I want to add to the discussion by bringing this back to something that's going to be very practical for you, which is hiring. Some of you are going to actually be the person interviewing and deciding about whether or not someone will take a job with the organization that you're part of. Will they become part of your team? Others of you, almost all of you, will at some point sit in front of someone that's making that decision whether or not you're going to be a good addition to their team. And so no matter what side of that desk you're sitting on, you need to understand a few basics about team composition. And there's a great resource out there, a gentleman named Lou Adler. He's out on the West Coast, and he started a company that trains people that do hiring, basically recruiting and hiring. And so he's got a lot of good stuff on LinkedIn. That's kind of where I found him. And he's the one who got me thinking about listing all the soft skills, which I recently talked about. So I want to talk a little bit about Lou Adler's advice when it comes to hiring. And I have his article here. The 2 questions you must ask to ensure a win-win hiring outcome. It means that the person hiring and the person that gets hired both agree that hiring them was the right decision 1 year later. So not only the employee saying, oh, I'm so glad I'm working here, but the employer saying, oh, I'm so glad I hired them. Excuse me, you're not boring me. I'm just tired. Okay. Most problems that happen in that first year of employment could be traced back to a lack of understanding on one side or the other of things that could have easily been uncovered during that interview process. So I just want to talk about these 2 things. 2 questions based on Lou Adler's advice here, and I'm going to write it on the board. So we have 2 questions. Okay, and these 2 questions, the first would be from the employer's point of view. And let's see here. You know what? I think I can mirror these screens. So give me just a second. Let's try to do, because that looks like it's backwards. Bloop. There we go. Okay. So these 2 questions here. First is called MSA, most significant accomplishment. Most significant accomplishment. And the question, it could be worded a lot of different ways. But here would be one way that if you're the employer hiring someone, you could ask this question. You could say it like this. Can you describe your most significant career accomplishment related to, and then something that has to do with the job? So let's say that I was going to hire you to be the manager for a office that does marketing and sales. So it's a small company and you are looking to be hired in a marketing and sales office. The question I would want to ask would be, tell me a little bit about maybe your most significant accomplishment in sales with new customers. And then, you know, you would have to think about that and say, do you have any accomplishments in that area? What have you done related to that? Is there anything you've done in your past that would have any correlation to that at all? So now if you're a seasoned worker and you've had a few jobs, you might. If you're brand new, then you have to be honest and say, you know, I don't have a lot of experience in that yet. So you would have to try and maybe pivot the conversation to other skills that you do have. But you got to realize when you apply for a job, the employer should want to know if you have any accomplishments in the area that you're being hired for. So your most significant accomplishment, your MSA, describe your most significant career accomplishment in that area. So it's something you need to be thinking ahead about. You go to a job interview, you already pretty much know what the company does. I mean, unless you haven't done your research, you should know what the company does and generally what you're applying for. And you should be able to anticipate this question and be ready with a clear answer. Second one would be your PSQ. And this is what we would call your problem solving question. This is Lou Adler's problem solving question, PSQ. And this would be a question that would look a little bit like this. It would be a little bit of a story question. And let's say we're, again, hiring you. You're applying to be the head of an office that does sales, outside sales, and marketing. So I might phrase it like this. One of the biggest challenges in this job is dealing with unhappy potential customers. They call, they're frustrated, they're looking for a solution, and that's why they call us. If you were to get this job, how would you help frustrated customers or potential customers with their concerns? And so what it does is, by me asking that question to someone I'm trying to hire, it puts them in the shoes of what it'll be like inside that job. Another way I might say, let's say that I was hiring someone to be a new assistant pastor, and I'm a senior pastor or a deacon, and I'm trying to hire someone. I might say, one of the things we found in our ministry is we have a lot of needs with neighbors in the community that they send their kids here, and they're just constantly there's just constantly needs, and they're a needy community. And so if you were to become an assistant pastor here, how would you go about trying to meet some of those needs as these things come up? And then the person that's in the job interview would be responsible to answer the question appropriately. So the whole point of this is to think ahead about what problem are you trying to solve as that potential employee. So they have a list here. Lou Adler put together this list. It's really good. Factors used to predict on-the-job performance. Okay, so these are kind of essential predictors that he came up with. So first off, here are some things, and maybe you might be thinking of some things that would be terrible predictors, and it's because of bias. So if I'm hiring someone, there are certain things I'm looking for, listening for, trying to sense right away. But my bias could throw off whether or not I'm hiring for the right reason. For example, let's say that someone is just a very well put together candidate. I'm hiring someone, and this person comes in and they're dressed nice and they've got the right hairstyle, and they're everything about them. They've got a degree from a institution that's very respectable, and their paperwork looks good and their resume looks good. Well, I could be almost seduced by their presentation, and I might not make the right hiring decision. Now, if someone comes in and their stuff isn't together, well then, I might be judging them rightly, but I shouldn't be swayed by how impressive they are. I shouldn't make a hiring decision based on that. Also, I shouldn't just go with how I feel about it. Boy, I just have a good feeling about this person. That's probably not good enough for hiring. You need to hire with knowledge, not hire with your gut. And so that is not a good reason. The only reason that might work out is basically God sent someone your way and you just happen to make the right decision for the wrong reason, but you cannot justify that that's the right way to make a decision. Weak predictors. So you cannot, you might hire someone because they've got a LinkedIn profile that has 50 skills listed. And, you're looking for skills. But just because someone has a laundry list of skills does not necessarily mean they're going to be a great hire. For example, I have some skills, like I have an associate's degree in electronic technology. Well, so let's say I was applying for a job at Best Buy, and they say, oh, wow, Jared's got electronic technology, associate's degree, must be great at it. Well, what that doesn't say is I got that degree 25 years ago. I am not interested in technology. It's on my laundry list of things that I have in my skill set, but it's not anywhere near the top, and it might not correlate to where technology is today. So you can't just go off of skills alone. Experience, same thing. Boy, Jared was in the industry he was in the Air Force in electronics for 10 years. Yeah, well, 5 years actually in electronics, 5 years I worked in a warehouse, and all that technology is obsolete. So just because someone has experience doesn't necessarily mean you should hire them. Competencies, okay? You got to make sure that if someone claims to have a competency, that it's applicable to this specific job. So just because someone was a great basketball player doesn't mean they're going to be a great coach. Just because someone, was a college athlete doesn't mean that they're going to be able to manage your gym facility for you. I mean, you have to, just because someone's a good home cook doesn't mean they're going to be able to run your cafeteria. You have to go beyond just that they have a competency, but is that competency tied to the hiring process? Again, from Lou Adler's hiring list here, strong predictors, at least that they'll be able to do comparable work. Do they have a pattern of achievement? So not only have they been in the industry or they trained on things, but have they received awards or recognition for doing well in that industry over and over again? Not just a one-time thing, but over and over again. Do they have an ability, so not just the talent, but also the ability to do the job and have a motivation if they don't have it all, but they want to learn? Do they have the ability to be organized and manage? Are they good problem solvers? Do they know how to think? Do they have good team skills, emotional intelligence? And so is their excellence validated by others? This is why references are so important. So these are great predictors for, can they do the comparable work? The final part is what you would call fit. Here at Faith, they call it mission fit, but really cultural fit, managerial fit, and job fit. These things are things that hiring managers are looking for. So let's flip the script around just a little bit. When we look at most significant accomplishment, you're going in for a job interview, not knowing exactly what questions they're going to ask, but you know about the job. You're applying to work at a camp. You want a full-time job when you graduate working at a camp. And you know that the position you're applying for is an operational position. Well, you should not walk in there ignorant of what questions they're going to ask. You should walk in pretty much anticipating some of the basic questions they're going to ask. And even if they don't ask, look for a way to bring it up. So when you flip the script at the end of an interview, you can say, well, I just did want to share with you one of my most significant accomplishments in operational camp ministry was this. And then you can say, hey, I worked one summer and we helped integrate a new program, or we helped to build something that didn't exist before, and here was the benefit. So you need to be able to articulate your most significant accomplishment. Also, you need to be able to get to the problem solving question, even if you're not asked as a potential employee. So, how would you handle this problem? You could say, I'm glad you asked me if I have any questions. I've been thinking about, is your biggest issue in this company, and the reason you're hiring this position, that you have issues with this one thing. And if they say, yeah, that's one of the things we deal with, then you say, well, I've been thinking about that. And if it was me, I would probably handle it this way. And what you're doing is you're revealing that you have some critical thinking ability. You have some problem solving ability. And so this all ties back to the topic of composition, putting the right people on the team. There might be 10 wonderful people applying for one position, but your job as a steward is to find the best person, not the smartest person, not the tallest person, not the best looking person, not your cousin, not a fellow alumnus, not someone that's young or old, the best person. And the best person, it takes a lot of different little factors all coming together for you to know that. I want to show you one more thing, because this, I'll go back to sharing real quick. When you look at in our textbook, it showed this little 4-box thing here. Yeah. So you see how it has this team member skills, technical and interpersonal. You have low and high, low and high. So motivation versus technical interpersonal skill. I want to show you. Oh, I guess it didn't click share. Sorry. Here you go. So you can see there's team member motivation here at the bottom, and then there's technical and interpersonal skill on the left. It's kind of a common managerial tool to use some type of XY axis type thing. Let's use a different color. All right. So you kind of have 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's a little different than ones that I've been accustomed to, but these are skills over here, and down here this is motivation. The significance of this little diagram is just this: the leaders in your organization, the people that you're going to hire, that you're going to be a year later, you're going to be like, I'm so glad we hired these people, is going to be this person up here, the superstar. You're really hoping that you're going to have someone that is able to be motivated and has a lot of great skills. But a lot of people start down here. That's okay. But very quickly, good employees will move one of two directions. Either they have a lot of skill, but they're not super motivated. And so if they have a lot of skill, but they're not super motivated, as it says in the book here, you need to provide incentives and use motivational techniques. So this number 2 here, you need to make sure that you're motivating them, because that's what they're lacking. They have plenty of skill, but you need to give them some incentives to motivate them. You need to speak their language. You might have down here in the number 3, they don't have a lot of skill yet, but they're super motivated. Now, a lot of times number 3 here is more desirable than number 2, because a lot of skills can be taught. Motivation is kind of an intrinsic thing, right? If someone's not motivated, they might be really smart or really good, but if they're not motivated, it can be pretty frustrating. Over here, if they're motivated and they are smart, you can teach them the skills. And really, the ultimate is where they have both. Down here, the reason why the chart in your book, figure 3.1, says drop them from the team is if someone has low skill and low motivation, they're really not someone you want to keep on the team. You need to let them go, because you need to free up space on your team for people that will be motivated and will grow in their skills and abilities. So that's why the book is talking about that. And this is really a good chapter. Hopefully, I'm not doing it justice, I know that, but hopefully it gets you thinking a little bit about your place on a team, because being part of a team, you actually help compose that team. You have a responsibility to bring your best to the team. Then, if you're someone that actually helps lead a team, it's also your responsibility not only to bring your best, but to find other people that will bring their best. If you've ever been on a winning team, a team that has a winning season, literally, they have some kind of award. It's the choir that won the gold medal at the music festival. It's the soccer team that goes to nationals. It's the volleyball team that wins regionals. It's the construction team that gets the contractor of the year award. It's, and you kind of go down the list of any kind of team that wins. It's pretty exciting and it's a lot of fun, and it generates winning teams seem to attract more winners. You get to be part of that. And so I want to challenge you in the last minute of this video is, as you look at yourself, where you fit into a team, you have to bring your very best, your skills, your motivation. You help comprise that team. You need to make sure that as you perform your roles and responsibilities within the team, that you're doing your very best. And then that will trickle down to the people that you get to lead, your peers, the people you're influencing, stakeholders, and it'll all work very well from there. So I look forward to talking about these different topics in class, but I wanted to at least get this out there to you. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email. But Friday, we'll talk about this. Thanks.